Don in London, hello. It's March 24th, 2013. Arctic conditions here in London, and it's very chilly. Very, very chilly indeed. Anyway, my video is all about recovery from addiction to either substance or behaviour. My addictive substance, alcohol, it could have been anything else. And my behaviour could be equally addictive around people, places and things. And these days, I'm just sober one day at a time, having spent a long time under the influence of alcohol, self-medicating away the pain of life, and then self-harming because I couldn't stop. And what helped me along the way to get into recovery? Well, I was very fortunate to have some family concerned about me, but they couldn't stop me. If I could not stop myself, my family couldn't. And then some professionals got me dry in the end for the umpteenth time, and then they suggested I go to a fellowship, and that fellowship is AA, Alcoholics Anonymous. I never speak for AA. I cannot. It's not set up that way. AA has no leaders or spokespersons simply because everybody in it is a trusted servant. So I can only speak for myself and my recovery, and I can share how the fellowship has helped me. So I don't represent the fellowship, never can, never will, but I can share how it helps me on a daily basis. So 24th of March 2013, in these Arctic conditions, what is AA and how does it help me? Oh, and by the way, if you are in AA, you know I don't speak for you. I never can, and I don't want to. So what is AA? I share the AA preamble here, and then some words which have come to me this morning, my daily reflections about why I want to be sober. So first and foremost, what is it? Alcoholics Anonymous is a fellowship of men and women who share their experience, strength and hope with each other, that they may solve their common problem and help others to recover from alcoholism. The only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking. There are no dues or fees for AA membership, and that's important to know. It's free, but we are self-supporting through our own contributions. AA is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organisation or institution, does not wish to engage in any controversy, neither endorses nor opposes any causes. But the good news is you can be all of those things. You can be part of a sect if you wish, a denomination, a political party, an organisation or institution of your choice. You can engage in controversy, and you can endorse or oppose any cause. You get your freedom back to be whatever you want to be. And what does that mean? It means our primary purpose is to stay sober so the rest of life can happen. Or as it says on the card, our primary purpose is to stay sober and help other alcoholics to achieve sobriety. And that's what sobriety is about for me, freedom of choice in the moment of now. The freedom to feel and express myself as I can, know my feelings, know my thinking, and how they impact on my actions on a daily basis, and how I want to fit in, or don't want to fit in, with wherever I am, with whomever I am with. So if you have a football team you support, you don't have to change. You don't have to change anything about your fundamental beliefs. Maybe one, though, which is a belief that it's better to be sober than under the influence of drink. And that's what it kind of came down to for me. I get all my freedoms back to be me, except for one thing, to drink again. And I can't do it for a lifetime. I only have to do it for a day. So whoever suggested in the fellowship, it's a one-day program which works, and what you see is what you get today in the fellowship. It's absolutely true. It can be good, bad or ugly, depending on what's going on in the lives of people who share their experience, strength and hope today. Anyway, some of my thoughts and feelings this morning, which is really actually about feeling and thinking intelligence, how our feelings are working and how our thinking is working, and are they working well? Are they balanced, and what happens if we ignore feelings, and what happens if we do not think before we launch into action? In my own experience, and I can only speak for myself, I need to challenge my own feelings and thinking before taking action. And I need to share my feelings and thinking very often before taking action, simply because sometimes it's going to involve other people, and because my way is not enough, and most likely not right for you. So the way I feel and think about life is probably not right for you, and that's perfectly good. And being in a fellowship where it's okay to disagree and be diverse and different, we keep this similarity sober first, and the rest of life can happen. Some reflections about yesterday. Always good to get to a meeting of the fellowship of AA. I fit in and I feel like I belong. At the same time, everybody else feels like they fit in and they belong, and I question that, because sometimes we don't. Newcomers, they don't fit in yet, and the notion of fellowship is very strange, where everyone is equal, no one can tell you what to do, and they make all sorts of suggestions as if they are instructions about life and how to live your life. If a newcomer is not suspicious, if a newcomer accepts everything we say as if it is gospel, I feel the prospects for the new man or woman are likely to be bleak. Stubborn, defiant and rebellious, these traits kept me alive all the way to fellowship, and I still needed them to challenge my own outlook and the outlook of everyone around me in meetings. Just because you say it so doesn't mean it is, and just because I say it so, I would wish you to challenge that, because I'm not always right, and I'm certainly not always right for you. The complete surrender which comes to admit and accept that we are powerless over alcohol, this was right in my case, and then I needed freedom to be confused, and freedom to start making new choices to the good of living, rather than an end to living one day at a time. Because in the end, it was coming down to, can I live another day like this? And why do I always want that? Why do I have that feeling that it would be better, this is when I was drinking, that it would be better that I didn't wake up? I didn't realise also that I was suffering from a horrible depression, which could be categorised as clinical depression by some, a marked reactive depression by others, and others would just say, you need to pull yourself together and give yourself a kick up the arse. And of course, we cannot do that in depression. It's real. Anyway, coming back to our feeling and thinking and intelligence, I was unable to understand what my feelings were most of my life, because I suppressed half of them with our alcohol, the ones I thought you didn't want me to have, what I would consider negative feelings. And yet those feelings were still there, building up, and only kept at bay with self-medication, and then it turned into self-harm. If we don't deal with our feelings, it is harmful to ourselves and the other people, because we are being dishonest, closed down and unwilling to share the truth. The same applies to our thinking and sharing half of what we think, so we may gain some sort of advantage. It becomes pointless in recovery, because personal relationships do require openness, honest and willingness to develop the truth of now. So truth keeps on evolving, the truth of now. Our relationships in the moment of now, they evolve. So when I say I love you, and I've said this, and I mean it, I do love you. If I've said it to you, I do. I mean it emotionally and spiritually. I love you in the moment of now. It does not mean you will love me back, because after all, it's a personal thing, love. So it does not mean you will love me back, and I cannot make you love me. And you cannot make yourself love me either, and that's just right in the moment of now. So, it's really important that love is what it is, and it develops through time, or it doesn't, and it's perfectly good. And we need to accept that even though we might love some people or desire them, they don't desire us, and that's perfectly right. Sometimes people think, and they don't feel life. They think if they do all the right things, life will be okay, and ask anyone in recovery, does this work, doing the right thing? Well, you've got to know what the right thing is for you. So it doesn't work if you are trying to imitate another person's sobriety. Sobriety is a personal journey. Life is a personal journey. and without the alcohol inside us, it makes more sense and nonsense sometimes. To think things will be all right just because, I don't feel that's right either. I hope the answer is a resounding no to that. Just by doing the right thing, it doesn't mean it's going to be okay. What makes it okay is becoming open, honest and willing to find the truth of now. There are many ways we can live and find love in our lives. The best way, and surprisingly the easiest way, is to be together with common purpose and usefulness. Common purpose can be as simple as starting a conversation, finding common ground and similar outlooks. And every time we keep things level and truthful, the likelihood is we either like someone or we don't. And naturally we develop friendships and kinship, or distance and no common ground. Either way, we can be respectful as long as we do not undermine each other. Ask any couple who have different political views why they can be in love with each other and at the same time almost at war over their political ideals. The same is true in fellowship. Common purpose, common ground, sober first, and then anything can happen. Tradition 3, a desire to stop drinking. That similarity is the glue of life in recovery. So tradition 3, a desire to stop drinking, being the only requirement for coming into fellowship, is absolutely right. And there are no rules, laws or regulations to undermine your recovery or to allow another person to impose their will on you. Anyway, coming back to romance, because it's important. You know, life keeps on happening in recovery, and it's more truthful. It hurts more as well some of the time. Romance in recovery is a wonderful thing. The odds are good and the goods are odd, as many people say. But what I've learned is that girls who drank like me are very attractive, sober. That's just the way it is. Anyway, this is how I've put it. I've learned that many times, and it really does undermine the truth, that in sobriety we can find love. As long as we are getting sober, of course, and though some equality and then some common, and through some equality and then some common ground, and then usual natural desires and needs start to pop up. And we do need time for these things to develop the right way round. I put a big question mark there. Actually, I still don't know what the right way round is, because then I put my thinking ahead of my feelings. So if I'm trying to contrive, do I love this person? Do I desire this person? Actually, check out your feelings. They will tell you what's going on. Yeah, I still don't know what the right way round is, because I don't put thinking ahead of my feelings. Nothing undermines recovery like another person suggesting how to love people, which people to love, and what my love looks like to you. Go with nature and let that work once you understand more about your feelings and thinking and actions without alcohol. So we have to be somewhat aware of how our feelings and thinking are working, and the only way to do that is check them out, either with the object or the person of your desire, or more importantly with your friends, before you go jumping in head first. Or jump in head first but keep your friends. This is what I'm going to say. Yeah, I still don't know what the right way round is, because then I put my thinking ahead of my feeling. Nothing undermines recovery like another person suggesting how to love people. So your sponsor will have their own idea, if you have a sponsor, and your friends will have ideas about what love looks like. Go with nature and let that work once you understand more about your feelings and thinking and actions without alcohol, causing a disruption to what nature gave us. The notion that some people are from Mars and some people are from Venus is not particularly helpful, because we all live on Earth. And if we can be truthful, really truthful, then we have a starting point, and often a much quicker end point, as we keep on making natural mistakes just like everybody else. So we might think, oh, I love that person and I desire them, and then find, oh, actually maybe I've made a mistake. And of course, the sooner we make a mistake like that and share it, either we can find out what's going on, or we might have to undo. So it's better to be truthful. even when you don't know. If you say to a person, I don't know how I feel right now, that's a good starting point, because it's called confusion. And of course, when it comes to romance, depending on your age, or our age, and our natural state, we all have our own truth. And believe you me, we still have a youthful outlook, even though we might be 9,000 years old, like me. So the most important part of love and romance is openness, honesty, and willing to share the truth. It is. The sooner the truth is out, the sooner people make decisions on a one-to-one basis about what is right for them. And when it comes to two people understanding their romantic situation, they have to understand, we have to understand it, or not understand it, or say, regardless of all the reasons for, I'm against it because it doesn't feel right, or for all the reasons we shouldn't, we end up in a place of we do. Truth will out. If we will let ourselves be truthful, then we are probably more balanced. And there is nothing worse than being, and this is the truth of sobriety, there's nothing worse than being with the person we think we ought to be with and trying our best and feeling the most lonely person on the planet. Can't get my words out. But what I'm saying is, if you feel lonely in a relationship, it's a good time to question whether we ought to be in it. Just because we are stubborn, defiant and resilient doesn't mean we should stay doing something which is insane and feeling lonely. Yes, the sooner the truth is out, the sooner people make decisions on a one-to-one basis about what is right for them. And as Gandhi said, an emphatic no is better than a half-hearted yes, especially in the romance department, I could suggest. And be righteous if you don't feel like it's right. Say no. Just say no, and that's got to be good enough. And acceptance comes in here both ways round. There is no point in trying to be something or feel something you don't. If you don't feel it, the love that is, don't pretend or lead yourself or another person on, because that's where we cause harm to them, and we can cause harm to ourselves by becoming judgmental and prejudicial and looking for faults. Because don't forget, with the 12th step program, you've got a way of appraising other people in the most unpleasant way at the core of their being, which is about love. So try not to be judgmental or prejudicial, just say no sometimes. And also, sometimes we fear being loved. Outside help in all these matters can be helpful. It's up to you. And we cannot return it. If we cannot return it until we are ready and the right person comes along at the right time, in the right place, no guarantees. And no rule book or set of instructions seems to be available since the beginning of time. Yep, no rule books, there is nothing, there's no instruction book on this. And of course we all might need to kiss a few frogs before we find our prince or princess, depending on your orientation today. There are no rules around this, and it's confounded mankind since the dawn of time, or the dawn of consciousness. Anyway, it was so good to see one or two friends who have been around most of my recovery in the last few days. Some friends have been sober for decades, and I rarely see them. Some friends have been out for some more research in what alcohol does on a personal level, and some friends have simply returned of their own volition to restart their recovery. And I feel good when that happens, to reconnect and be so happy that they are there. I cannot explain the feeling of other than love, and feeling very moved by what they say and what they do. When we hear the truth shared, stripped of any varnish and without any guile or manipulation, simply to wake up with a clear head and not a mountain of empty bottles around the bed, I'm simply happy to hear it. And I can share that, and share that fellowship is a desire to stop drinking, and sobriety comes first in all respects. Because this is the most important part of fellowship for me. It is sobriety first, no matter what we do with the spiritual kindergarten we're in. Anyway, which brings me back to romance in recovery. Do you know what? I'm so happy because there's so many people who have got married in recovery, and it's working for them, but they still have fractious, stubborn, defiant times, and they all have in-laws as well, which can make it very, very difficult. I have a responsibility for my personal conduct, and the same is true for each and everyone. And fellowship is described as a spiritual kindergarten, and in the spiritual kindergarten it does take a lot of time to understand what our feelings are and what drives them, if ever we find out, why we think the way we do and the actions that follow. And in the spiritual kindergarten we are all learning how to love one another, how to love each other, and how to be loved back, and we all have needs and desires. I will have thinking going on, and in the past, what am I saying here? And we all have desires. I will have thinking going on, and in the past we've probably got away with a lot of things. Well, I don't know that I got away with things. I just made my life very, very complicated with romantic interludes, all crashing into each other, because I was just wanting to be perfect, and I was a complete nightmare trying to make situations perfect, and far too attentive. Anyway, yes, we all have needs and desires, etc. And so romance happens, regardless of all the concerns we will throw into our thinking as individuals and as groups. Relationships will happen, and the reality is, somehow, most of the time, we do put sober first. If you've been around long enough and had romantic interludes, you realise that you need every element of sobriety that got you there to the point where you were able to have a romance, and not to lose sight of that. But of course we are imbalanced when we're in love, because it's mad. Relationships will happen, and the reality is somehow most of the time we do put sober first. If a woman sees that a man has been able to drink like her, and the man has been able to see that a woman can drink like him, they are on common ground from the past. So it doesn't really mean that you're going to have common ground now. Without a drink inside each other, it is highly likely that the same attractions are going to be there? ? I cannot comment for other people. I don't know. The most important thing as part of any romance is that sober must come first, in my humble opinion, or there will be no relationship of any kind with anyone. Because if we let ourselves loose and put all our love into one person, and then exclude all the things which kept us sober to get to that point, it's very dangerous, I feel. But I cannot comment for other people, and that's most important too. So if a romantic interlude occurs, no matter how long it may be, keep going to meetings. Do not let go any friends. Do not undermine your recovery. Simply find a way to include a romance along the way, which may become the major part of love in your life, which is all to the good. But we still need sobriety, or it won't keep on working, because we will make the other person our higher power if we're not careful. Do not undermine your recovery. Simply find a way to include romance along the way, and do not undermine. And hopefully your lover will keep their program of sobriety as well, as you do too. Of course, romance outside fellowship, I feel the same thing applies. Sober first, and romance can blossom and happen, and every other sort of relationship too. So it's about learning to love, how to be a friend, how to be a lover, how to be this, that, how to develop boundaries, some people call it. So what's the most important part of any relationship? Open, honest, and willing to find truth. Love is the very essence of living, and if it weren't the very essence of living, don't forget, some of us will have romance in our lives, or we could just be in love with life. We don't need another person to make us happy. If we are involved with another person and it happens naturally, we'll be happy. We still need everything else as well in recovery. Without recovery there is no relationship, except with where we came from, probably. That's my feeling, and I wouldn't want to get in the way of your own outlook. This is a very personal thing. But a desire to stop drinking, putting sober first means the rest of life can happen. So where we have this similarity, no doubt in the spiritual kindergarten, love is going to grow, because we're men and women, and every orientation, every type of politics, every type of cause, but we're there for sober first and helping the newcomer. So yes, and around all of that, people develop their own common sense, common ground, and gumption about what to do next. So it's a very practical way. You know, if love wasn't practical or in the action, what would it be? It would be imagination, wouldn't it? So it's what we do in practice, how we cherish each other and let go of superficiality and indifference. There we go, enough. And the serenity prayer, can do, can't do, and as Gandhi said, an emphatic no is better than a half-hearted yes. Don't go along with it just because you feel you ought to. That would be the worst of situations. It undermines you, and it undermines those who you don't know so well in their pursuit of happiness. It's about happiness, apparently, the pursuit of happiness. Happiness written into the Constitution of the United States and into the United Nations Charter on how people need to treat each other. We have a right to be happy, with or without whatever it is we need. So to God, or in good conscience, the serenity prayer: God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference is always learned just for today.